and welcome. Welcome to the Blessed Podcast, where we join Jesus where he is already at work, where we live, learn, work, and play. At Love KC, we believe that every person should hear the good news of Jesus from a friend. If that's going to happen, it will take all of us. The letters BLESS in the Blessed Podcast stand for begin with prayer, listen to God and to those around you, eat together, serve, and share. Share your story and share his story. As always, we have free resources to help you live on mission at our website, lovekc.net, and there you can find upcoming events. We interview a wide range of people on the Blessed Podcast, well-known authors, speakers, and leaders, plus everyday people, because we want you to meet those you might not get to meet on your own, and we want you to be able to identify with someone a lot like you. Our podcasts drop the 15th and 30th of the month. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share. Now let's jump into this episode of the Blessed Podcast with your host, Gary Kendall, and co-host, Samantha Lane Krebs.
Well, welcome to Love KC and the Blessed Podcast. We're excited to be able to share with you stories of people who are living on mission. And some of those are here in Kansas City. Others of them are around the country or even around the world. But we know that Jesus called each one of his disciples to follow him. So there's a Godward part. And then he also said, I'll teach you to be fishers of men. And there's a part that deals with people, and the part how we follow him by educating other people, encouraging people, lifting people, supporting people, etc. And we have someone who's doing that in Kansas City with us today. So Linda Hughes, I want to welcome you from Lead to Read. We're glad you're here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I want to encourage you that you can subscribe at the Love KC YouTube channel. It's Love KC Today, or you can follow along at Love KC on the Facebook group called Living on Mission. We're glad you're here. Feel free to share this. And let's go, Linda. Are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, tell us a little bit about Lead to Read and what is it, and how long has it existed? Where can people find you? That kind of thing.
Yes. Well, Lead to Read is a children's literacy nonprofit. We were founded in 2011 by a husband and wife who were working with a youth group in the inner city, Kansas City. And they were getting ready to take these students that they found to be curious and intelligent and funny on a field trip. And the students were working on permission forms. And the two sponsors, the husband and wife, Lynn and Jean Rundle, were surprised at the gaps in their literacy, in their inability to do the form. And so they kind of rewound the tape and tried out an idea with another friend from their church of having volunteers come into a third grade classroom, Whittier Elementary and KCK, and read one-on-one with students for 30 minutes a week. And we've changed quite a bit, grown quite a bit in the last 12 years, but at our core, that's still what we're about, that one-on-one connection with a volunteer from the community who spends 30 minutes a week with a student.
That's awesome. And how's it going? Excuse me. How many, like if you were to say there's X number of volunteers in the city, how many would you say?
We are almost to 1,600 volunteers. Actually, when I meet with my team, my colleagues tomorrow, we might have already surpassed the 1,600 mark.
1,600 volunteers reading with children. That's great, Linda, because it seems like that's a low lift from from the viewpoint of how much time you would invest, but really a high return for the amount of time. But you still got to block your schedule. You still got to move other things off to the side to do that. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
And how many years did you say that Lead to Read has been in operation?
We've been in operation for 12 years. Started just with that small school, and now we have 28 schools, primarily in the KC metro area, public schools and charter schools, but then also 3 schools in the Center School District, a little bit further south, and then 2 schools in KCK, Banneker and Whittier Elementary.
That's fantastic. I love it. I heard a statistic, and you can tell me if it's true or not true, because there's so many things that people say are statistics. But that children, when they can read by the third grade, have a much greater chance of A, graduating, and B, staying out of any kind of prison or jail or anything like that. Have you heard that statistic?
Yes, absolutely. And part of that statistic is that you think about in your early years of school, in kindergarten through the end of third grade, you're learning how to read. You're identifying that these letters make sounds, and you can blend those sounds together to make words and then sentences and paragraphs. And children arrive at skilled reading at different rates between kindergarten and third grade. But by the end of third grade, if you're not reading well, then kind of a transition happens. Fourth grade and up, you have to be able to read to learn. You have to be able to read your social studies textbook. You have to be able to read the word problem in math. And the ability of those teachers to provide you with reading instruction
Right?
is really it's not part of their content. It's not part of their curriculum. And so you really do need to have that skill by the end of third grade.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. When people read, Linda, what do they get to choose what they're reading, or are there assigned readings, or how does that work?
That's a great question. We work with first, second, and third graders, and so it really is meeting the child where they are.
Okay.
If you have a first grader that's just mastering letter sounds, you might spend part of your time working on flashcards and mastering those skills, and then you'll read aloud to the child. We ask our teachers to make sure that children come to each session with 3 books. One
Okay.
that
Oh, I
there
like
may be, yeah, yeah. So the kids are so they might be bringing a book that just has a few words on it per page, and you're helping them sound it out. But we also have an opportunity for students or for our mentors to gift a book to students twice a year, in December and in May, before winter break and before summer break.
I like that they could bring their own books.
Hmm.
I think that's
It's great, and
motivating.
I'll say the student that I read with for 2 years, who was um, it's been great to develop that relationship over the 2-year period, without fail brings nonfiction. Now, sometimes this nonfiction she can read, and sometimes she can't, but she wants to know about actual things.
Very
I can't remember any time she's brought a story. So we've learned about wolves and spiders and uh,
wow.
all kinds of reptiles. But and she's so bright, and so it's unlocking the reading code and
Very cool.
helping her comprehend to access all this information that she wants to access.
I love that. So what got you started, Linda? When you started, how did you first hear about it? And then, what made you say yes to this?
That's a great question. So I'm trained as a history teacher. So when I graduated from college, that's what I did. And then when my children were little, I was fortunate to be able to stay home and do some adjunct work at a local university. And then I started volunteering at my parish school. And I remember another individual said to me, "You spend a lot of time with other people's children." And I laughed because I was trying to get him to sponsor a club, after school or
Sure.
something. And I think that's kind of been a running theme. And I ended up working at that school. I was an instructional coach and then the assistant principal, and really was looking for a change. And so I just happened to be on Facebook, and I followed Lead to Read because I heard about it when my kids were little. And I thought, oh, this is something I could do. And I could never figure out. Then I started working in a school, and it's, people that work in schools know you can't really leave and come back during your school day very
Right,
effectively.
right.
And so I saw that they had an opening for a site coordinator, which are those Lead to Read employees that go to the schools to make sure the volunteers know where they're going and get paired up with their students. So it seemed like a good opportunity, and I did that for a few months. And then when the community outreach program manager position opened, I applied for that, and I feel I'm kind of maybe the consistent through line through it all is that desire to help other people's
Yeah.
children.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I get it. When I pastored Indian Creek Community Church, we had an after-school program with Countryside Elementary. And for about 6 years while I was there, I know it's gone on since I started working with Love KC. in the city work, it still is going on. And now it's at Hope Chapel is the name of the church now because the church added campuses and changed names. But the point of it is I would make a point after work on Thursdays to go down and be with the kids. And we would read, we would do simple math. We would just share games with them and share our life with them.
Mhm.
And
I love that.
then we had a break where people could leave if they wanted to, and we did an optional half an hour where we talked about Jesus and we did some stories from the Bible, etc. And
Mhm.
most of the kids stayed, and most of the parents were just fine with that. So I made relationships there that I still keep to this day. And
Oh,
so I'm especially inclined to support what you're doing because of my personal experience.
yes,
You
yes.
probably have some stories. What are some of your favorite stories? Maybe a story of a volunteer and then maybe a story of a student or something like that.
Oh, sure, sure. So I would say one of my favorite student stories is when I was during COVID, when we had certain restrictions in place. I was the site coordinator for a school where the reading mentors couldn't come in person. So they were reading over Zoom. And as you can imagine, technical issues ensued. It
Oh,
was
oh
first
yeah.
grade students. So my job was to be at the school with this class of about 20 first graders. And I think 3 students had the same name. So
Okay.
that took me a bit. Um, but getting all the kids connected, getting their headsets on, making sure that, they were connected to their reading mentors. But I got so attached to this class of students that at the end of the year, Leach Read does like an ice cream party for the kids. So what we do now is we have the Kona ice truck come, and the mentors and the students get to get Kona ice and
I
just
like
hang out for
that.
that last session, and it's so fun. Um, but anyway, that was the surprise for this group of kids. We were still going to have the Kona ice truck come, and the teacher had been saying there's a surprise at the end of the day. Well, I walked into the classroom to let them know the Kona ice truck was there, and the kids started cheering. And one little girl said, "You're the surprise." And
You are the surprise.
I thought,
That's
bless your sweet
awesome.
heart. I mean, it was endearing to me because I felt like all I'd really done was, like try to redirect them to, help them
Wow.
connect with their reading mentors. But um and I would say, from a volunteer standpoint, in addition to working at Leach Read, I read with 2 students. And probably the student story that's freshest in my mind is I went to read with my student, and she had her head down on her desk, and she takes medication that doesn't make her very hungry. And so she really hadn't eaten, and she was really kind of down. And then when she sat up, just kind of a slow smile crept on her face. And then, we just started reading, and I didn't relieve her hunger. I didn't, give her any more sleep. She said that she'd gotten up really early. Um, and I don't know, I don't know the experiences that my students have outside of their time in school, in our 30 minutes a week. But I felt like in that moment we could have this bright, shining connection. And then it was a special thing to me. It's another student that I've worked with. I loved seeing his progression in reading. And that's probably the most common thing our volunteers talk about is, the growth that they can see from September to May in their students. And because you're paired with the same student every week, you really are developing a bond. And that child comes to rely on seeing you as a consistent adult presence in their life, and someone that is going to be their reading cheerleader. And so that's been a pretty special thing.
I guess so. I mean, another part of that, Linda, seems to be that you're there really purely as an advocate. You're not a teacher who's grading them.
Exactly.
You're not a parent
Exactly.
who's trying to, parent them.
Yes.
You're coming in as a champion,
Hmm.
advocate, a helper to support them. And
Yes.
and I mean, there are probably times you do get their worst and so their best, but you're going to love them anyway. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think you're adding something really important to their life.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
Well,
a great distinction. It really is because they we're just there to help them develop a positive association with reading and become stronger readers. And so we have that freedom that we're, like you said, we're not parents at home were not teachers in school.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's say that there's someone listening, Linda, and they want to get involved. What would the steps be? Where should they go? Help them if they want to follow up on this.
Great question. So our website is leadtoreadkc.org.
Okay.
And on that website, you can find a place where you can click Get Involved. And
Okay.
under that Get Involved tab, there's information about volunteering. We have an online application that's really pretty brief, kind of name, address, phone number. And then you also can take a look at our school schedule and say, my Tuesdays are probably my most flexible days, and I'd like to find a school that reads on Tuesday. As you can imagine, school schedules are pretty tight. And so we have times already established in these 28 schools, and you can kind of choose based on day of the week or location. And I'll put a plug in. My friend Allison and colleague Allison would think I was remiss if I didn't. We're really trying to open a new class at Frontier School of Innovation on Front Street. It's down by the river, down by the new Casey Current Stadium. And since it's new, people aren't used to going there, but it's such a fabulous school. And we'd love to get some mentors that would be interested in driving to that school and spending that time. But we have a need in several of our schools. So you fill out the application, then you'll get a link to a background check from our volunteer manager, Haley Reese, and she's fabulous. She's the fastest emailer in the West, I like to call her. But she will send you the link to the background check. If you already have a current background check, you can just send her a link to that. But we guarantee to the schools we work with that our volunteers have been background checked. Then you get assigned to a school and you get handed off to a site coordinator. And that person is going to be your point of contact moving forward on a weekly basis. They send you an email every week saying, remember there's construction on Main Street, so you might want to go a different way. Or it's just kind of your extra helping hand to make the logistics easy. So you can really just focus on that time with your student.
That's great. I love that. I do think the emphasis on a background check is good. Even at the church I volunteer at, if you're a volunteer at the church where I attend, then you have to have a background check on file, and they always keep them up to date.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you either want to tell our listeners or like something they might not have thought of that's a part of this that you would want to highlight?
Sure. Well, I manage our book distribution program, so I always like to make a plug for that. It's called Reading is Everywhere.
Okay.
And it's essentially the little free library concept, but instead of having these free books outside, we put them inside a service agency or business or barbershop or hair salon so that the children that are in that location can have access to free children's books. So I would say 95% of the books in that program are books that have been donated to us. And we really like books that look like they're new. We love new books, of course, but books that are like new. So we have an Amazon wish list of books. We love it when people are interested in making just a donation on their own or holding a book drive, with their organization. And there's more information about all that on our website. And we're always, looking for volunteers. That's probably always our biggest ask, but there are so many ways you can help this mission through donations, through book donations. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities for high school students to help us sort and process book donations. Those are also listed on our website as Second Saturday Sorting. And so that's an opportunity for people 12 and older to come in and help us get books ready to go out in the community.
That's awesome. Second Saturday sorting.
Yes.
The mouthful.
Alliteration is always fun.
Yeah, well, you can probably remember that.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, Linda, I'm really glad that you were willing to take the time today to come in and chat with the folks from Love KC. And Lead to Read is a wonderful cause, and we're going to point people there. So the podcast that we've done here will be posted in two places. It'll be at the Love KC YouTube site. So it's called KC Today YouTube. And all of our prayer calls there, our teaching times are there, and these podcasts are there. So there's a lot there if a person wants to find more. They'll also be posted in a week on the Love KC Living on Mission. And Love KC Living on Mission is a group where people can go and they can share these kinds of things as updates. So Linda, if you join that group, and of course it's free to join on Facebook, you can post things that are coming up. So if you later
Fabulous.
have a fundraiser, you later have, a get to know the neighborhood kind of thing, then you just post it in the group and anybody can see it. And in this way, we're trying to raise the value of every person living on mission. We know God
Mhm.
gives individual gifts. We call it level ground at the foot of the cross.
Oh, yeah.
Some people call it the priesthood of all believers, which means that, some will have a gift of pastoring or maybe leading and like an apostle or something and leading a ministry, but all of us have gifts and we can use them. And as we do, we really are one body. We make up the bride of Christ in Kansas City. So we need you. We're thankful for what you do, Linda. And we want to invite others to also do what they can do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gary.
Yeah, so glad to have you on today. And with that, we'll let you guys go about your week, but God bless you. Thank you for joining the Blessed Podcast.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Blessed Podcast. We hope this podcast informed and encouraged you. Remember to subscribe on your favorite format, iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. If you want to see the interview on Zoom, hop over to our Love KC Living on Mission Facebook group. Have a blessed day.